I most solemnly and sincerely promise and swear, with a firm and steadfast resolution, without the least equivocation, binding myself under no less penalty than that of having my throat cut across, my tongue torn out by its roots, and buried in the rough sands of the sea at low water mark, where the tide ebbs and flows twice in 24 hours, should I ever knowingly or willingly violate this, my solemn oath and obligation as an entered apprentice Mason. Excerpt from the Oath of a First-Degree Mason. If you're hearing this, well done. You found a way to connect to the internet. Welcome to the QAA Podcast, episode 376, Masonic Hit Squads, Part 1, The Athanor Affair. As always, we are your hosts, Jake Rakitansky,
Julian Field,
Brad Abrahams,
and Travis View.
It's September the 1st, 2019. We're in a deep wood in the Livradois-Forez Nature Park in south-central France. The late summer sun is burning off the mist from the wet forest floor. A man in his early 60s, history doesn't record his name, ambles through the greenery, humming something off-tune to himself. His gaze expertly scans the ground in front of him. It's mushroom season, and he's on the hunt.
Nice.
All of a sudden, he stops short. Something has broken the familiar patterns beneath him. It's a rounded, off-white object protruding from the brush and soil. He digs around it just enough to pull it loose. He gasps at the realization of what his hands are holding. It's a skull, a human skull. That's when he notices other bones jutting out from the soil, scraps of clothing and a fragment of a leather belt. He rushes back to the car park, somehow managing not to take a tumble, and calls the police. The first analysis concludes the remains belong to an adult male, but it'd be another year before they'd be matched with a name. He was a man who'd been famous on nearly every racing circuit in Europe, and a French GT champion. He'd vanished from a Paris suburb back in 2018, but it'd be several more years before we'd learn what his remains were doing 500 kilometers south in this remote forest.
Damn.
Flash forward to a morning in late July 2020, in a busy suburb of southeast Paris, where a young father had just dropped off his toddler at daycare. On the walk back, he passes a black Renault Clio, parallel parked against the curb. This father, definitely more observant than I, notices something off with this scene. He slows down to get a better look, but smartly doesn't stop entirely. Inside the car, he sees two men. They have their hoods up with heavy gloves on. This makes no sense as it's the middle of a heat wave, nearly 35 centigrade or 95 Fahrenheit. The driver is wearing an earpiece and, weirdly, they're both pretending to be asleep. Worried they might be planning an attack on his son's daycare, he phones the police. They tell him it doesn't sound like an emergency and hang up on him, but he refuses to let this go. He sees an anti-crime squad car around the corner. He flags them down and leads the plainclothes cops by foot to the Clio. There they tap the glass, rousing the quote-unquote sleeping inhabitants, and perform a search. This is what they found.
The car license plate is fake, held on with tape. The car, stolen. 2 French Army issue switchblade knives, a hammer, earplugs, a loaded revolver in a pink bag, and on the gun, a homemade silencer fashioned out of a children's applesauce pouch.
What kind of MacGyver nonsense is this?
You have to be so high level to be able to craft that kind of silencer. Usually, they make you do it out of like discarded water bottles and stuff, and like old rags.
Yeah.
But like to be able to find applesauce, like that's such a rare drop, anyways.
Yeah.
And then to be able to go ahead and craft the silencer with the duct tape and everything else that you have to pick up is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a point-and-click solution. It's like apply the applesauce to the gun. Now you have a silencer.
Yeah, like they didn't they had to look up a guide. They had to look up a walkthrough before they.
They're like, it just doesn't make sense. There's no way to progress.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
The cops cuff the men and throw them in the back of a police van. Nervously, the duo immediately start talking. They claim they're on the job, and that they're with France's Foreign Intelligence Service, the DGSE. That's the equivalent of our CIA or Britain's MI6. They were there to assassinate a woman, supposedly on official government orders. In reality, they'd been hired by Freemasons from a lodge gone rogue. This scene is improbably connected with the previous, that forest 500 kilometers away. Together, they're woven into a tapestry so dense, so unbelievable, that I've spent the last month trying to wrap my head around it and how best to bring it to you all. But I've persisted because this triggered that unique, intoxicating pleasure of stumbling upon a real-life conspiracy. We're playing with a full deck here. A secret society acting as the hidden hand of government and finance, infiltrating intelligence agencies, doing corporate espionage, and even assassinations. You might be thinking, Brad's too pilled, but this is all sworn testimony in a French courtroom, unfolding as we speak. 22 defendants are appearing before the Paris Special Assize Court, the heavyweight court France reserves for terrorism and organized crime. 13 of the defendants are facing life in prison. There's a confirmed body count of 1, but the accused disagree about how many more there really are, upwards of 10. As I said, this is a beast of a story to tell. The reporting is all in some foreign alien language. There's a cast of 24, a tangle of alphabet agencies, and a lot of hearsay. I think it'll help to get a little movie-brained about it, which I think Jake's gonna like. So
Always.
Yeah, to me, it's part Coen Brothers burn after reading, a little Breaking Bad, a little Sopranos, and then a side of Uncut Gems. So I want you to kind of picture that as we go along here and some of the characters within those films. Yeah.
Gently picking out the Breaking Bad. Yes, much better.
Yes.
The picky eater of the group.
Yeah.
That's right.
Honestly, I've never actually seen Breaking Bad. I know the basics.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you do.
So a disclaimer, I grew up in Canada and I was forced against my will to take French classes until I was about 15. Yeah. But I embarrassingly remember very little. I think the reason why I hated it so much is our teachers hated teaching it too. They were all Anglophones that were just like forced to teach it to us. So in turn, nothing stuck. So I'm just preemptively asking everyone, or telling everyone not to come at me for mispronunciations, but Julian has agreed to correct me on the most egregious ones.
Sure.
And last flag, so notice the part 1 in the episode title. So next week, Travis is going to take us back to an even older Masonic murder, but equally as incredible as this one.
Burn your ego.
How does a Masonic lodge turn to murder? To attempt to answer this, we have to go back to the basics of what a Masonic lodge is, especially in the context of France, because, like with everything, the French do it differently. Modern Freemasonry as we know it was formed in Britain. The date usually given is June 24th, 1717, when 4 London lodges met in a dingy tavern and formed the first Grand Lodge. France got it soon after in the 1720s and never let go, where it's continued to be suffused into the very fabric of the French Republic. The structure is simple. The working unit is the lodge, each with 20 to 60 people, meeting on a set calendar. Lodges belong to an obedience or a Grand Lodge, which charters them and collects dues. There are 3 core degrees: entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason, and then a set of higher systems built on top. The big one is the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite, 33 degrees, which the conspiracists love, and the level relevant to our story. From the start, a fissure formed down the middle of French Freemasonry. The first houses the more liberal or adogmatic obediences. They tolerate atheists, they let politics and religion be argued inside temple grounds, and several even admit women. The giant here is the Grand Orient of France, with 50,000 members across 1,300 lodges. This is the big progressive tent. There's also the Grand Lodge of France with about 33,000 members, mostly working in the higher degree Scottish Rite. The second half are the dogmatic and traditionalist obediences. They require a belief in a supreme being, what they call the Grand Architect of the Universe. They admit men only, they ban politics and religion inside the temple, and they desperately covet recognition from the United Grand Lodge of England, which is the body that referees who counts as quote-unquote real Masons. The main dogmatic obedience is the National Grand Lodge of France, or GLNF, founded in 1913, which has around 43,000 members so far. This is the dogmatic Grand Lodge at the heart of our story, and it was born out of a civil war. This Masonic Gettysburg hit in 2011, when the Grand Master, Francois Stéphanie, was accused of extreme corruption unbefitting of a leader. There were murky finances, real estate shell games, and the forcing of the entire order to pledge loyalty to Nicolas Sarkozy back when he was a candidate, breaking the no politics rule.
Oh
so that's
my
like
God, yeah. So it's the right
50,000 people, that were forced to vote for him. In September 2011, the United Grand Lodge of England suspended all relations, and by June 2012, lodges in Switzerland, Belgium, Austria, Germany, Luxembourg, and 30 other nations pulled their recognition. A couple thousand of them broke away to found a new traditionalist obedience. They called this tight-ass org the Grand Lodge of the French Masonic Alliance, or GLAMF. Its founder is a caricature of a secret society Grand Master. His name is Alain Juillet, born in 1942. He was Stanford-educated, a paratrooper colonel in France's Cold War intelligence service, and a corporate executive at Pernod Ricard Spirits and Marks & Spencer.
Oh my God. A demon.
Oh my God.
He became director of intelligence at the GGSE, that's France's CIA, from 2002 to 2003, and soon after, France's senior official for economic intelligence under Chirac and Sarkozy. He's since drifted into Russian state media and conspiracy-friendly outlets, ranted about the LGBT lobby, and become a national embarrassment.
One too many parachute jumps, I think, for this gentleman.
No, this is actually all really par for the course for guys like this.
Within the GLAMF is the lodge at the center of these assassinations. It sits in Puteaux, a wealthy community just west of Paris, next to an area called La Défense, which is a glass and steel business district transplanted into the suburbs. The temple itself was discreetly tucked away into the courtyard of a chic apartment building, behind an unassuming door. Inside were about 20 brothers, all high-ranking 33-degree Masons of the Scottish Rite. The name of their lodge was Athanor, named after the alchemist's slow-burning furnace, the vessel where base metal was transmuted over long, patient heat into the philosopher's stone. In Masonic symbolism, the Athanor is the inner furnace, where the initiate is refined into the metaphorical, philosophical gold, meaning the refuse of their ego is burned away and they are purified. Ironic, considering what's to come shows the worst excesses of ego and indulgence.
It's so crazy to imagine all of this stuff going on, and these guys are dressed like Ku Klux Klan members, you know, because I learned the hard way when I briefly, I think I've told this story on the pod before. Julian, you're our resident Jake redundant story, so let me know if I have.
This one, I already know, has shown up twice, if not
This
three
one,
times.
the fraternity pledging
Yep.
KKK robe surprise.
That's right.
All right, folks, you're going to have to listen to past episodes if you want to hear that story.
Now I'm going to get blamed just for being asked if you've said it before. Unfair.
Unfair. You know what? If you're mad at Julian about stopping a story for a third, possibly fourth time on a podcast, don't be, because as upset as you are, there's somebody out there who's listened to these
so
stories 3 or
pissed,
4
yeah.
times, and they're just like, not a fucking again, my $5. I paid $5 fucking dollars. I gotta hear about this guy's fraternity. We know, and his hands were on fire. It smelled weird. Yeah, I get it.
The Three Ruffians.
The trial may be happening now, but the rot that started this affair goes back almost 2 decades. In 2009, 3 despicable men found each other inside the Athanor Lodge, and everything began to fester from that day on. The lodge is run by an elected head called the Worshipful Master, and over the years that title passed between 2 of these 3 men. Now there are a lot of names in this app, and I don't expect you to remember them all. It doesn't help that some of them sound really similar too, but you must remember these 3. The first is the most serious of the bunch, Daniel Beaulieu, now 72 years old. He's a retired commander from France's Domestic Intelligence Service, essentially the spying side of their FBI. His career specialty was infiltrating the far left. When he retired in 2009, he set up a small economic intelligence consultancy, the polite term for corporate spying. He also fathered 2 completely parallel families for 20 years, which I've also heard is very French, with neither wife aware of the other.
Yeah. We had a whole ass president that this happened to, Mitterrand.
He had business interests in the Republic of Congo, not shady at all, which were likely linked to an attempted assassination of a general, an exiled Congolese opposition figure who was shot in the streets of Paris in 2015.
Yeah.
Could you guys describe what Daniel Beaulieu looks like here?
He literally just looks like a PE teacher. That's the.
Yeah.
You don't need to hear anything else.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yeah, he's also kind of wearing a tracksuit in this.
Yeah.
photo.
Yeah, he's not just any PT teacher. He's your PT teacher.
Beaulieu's backstory is its own kind of horror. He's believed to have been born from his mother's rape at one of his father's drunken parties.
Jesus.
She would later die after being assaulted by a squatter next door. He described his role as a child.
I felt like I was my mother's guardian. Sometimes she would hide under my bed, thinking Dad wouldn't find her, but he would. Sometimes he would lock her in her room for 10 days. When she came out, she was all blue, but she said she was fine.
So yeah, that's Beaulieu's origin story. Pretty disturbing.
boy.
Yeah.
So no good.
Yep. Frédéric Vaglio is next, age 53. He started out as a reporter at a regional newspaper, moved into corporate communications at Peugeot, then, oddly, set up his own private intelligence firm. He lives west of Paris and gets his kicks by firing a Kalashnikov into the forest at the edge of his property. Meeting Beaulieu in the lodge in 2009 changed him forever. He completely fell for the world of real spycraft, or at least the story Beaulieu told about it. Vaglio called Beaulieu his Master Yoda, and here's a drawing of him from the court case, if anyone can take that.
Okay, this is what if the PE teacher lost all his hair? Actually, it's a bit more like a math teacher, a little squatter, a little more
I
out
was
of
going to
shape.
say the same thing. It looks like a math teacher on the verge of retirement, like his last
yes.
1 or 2 years. He's absolutely sick of this. He's dreaming where he doesn't have to talk to these kids anymore.
Yeah.
Definitely.
To me, this looks like the kind of guy who's like helping you prepare for your bar mitzvah.
Last is Jean-Luc Bagour, 69 years old. He's the money guy. He founded a scummy corporate coaching school called Link Up Coaching, collects guns, and held the worshipful master's chair during the main events of this episode. He had a reputation in the biz for playing rough, and we'll soon see just how rough. And so to round out the trio, someone describe what Jean-Luc Bagour looks like.
Okay, so here we've got Vic from The Wire, but French. Very bald, and you can tell he's probably hit a few people in the face.
Oh, yeah. The French have a particular word for these types of men. Barbouz. It means shadowy intelligence operatives, the kind a government quietly uses for dirty work and then denies, somewhere between a real spy and a hired thug.
They love to set these kinds of guys out on the left, by the way. Every
Yeah.
single time. It's like, yeah, we're going to set out like our semi-criminals to infiltrate your shit.
This last guy, Bagour, his eyes are barely open. I mean, this guy can see. He's basically got enough vision for one thing, and that's leftists.
So, remember these names. Beaulieu, the real ex-spy, Vaglio, the wannabe spy, and Bagour, the money man. So Beaulieu, Vaglio, Bagour, Beaulieu, Vaglio, Bagour. Easy, right?
Are you all right?
Yes.
Gesundheit.
This thing of ours.
Wow.
When these three men found each other in the lodge, they formed a criminal brotherhood where each one enabled the other, escalating year by year into something monstrous. It started with surveillance. Around 2013, in the Paris suburb of Saint-Maur.
I've lived there.
Oh, you have? Wow, okay. Vaglio's private security firm sold the town hall a 10,000 euro security audit. In reality, it was a spying package targeting a local politician, all commissioned by the sitting mayor. To get the goods, the Masons paid an officer from France's FBI 1,000 euros to hand over personal photos and info. This is the moment the lodge started recruiting state spies to moonlight in a Masonic side hustle. It quickly turned physical when a local councillor in the same suburb kept digging into the corruption scandal. Two hooded men beat him in his own garden, telling him,
"You've got to stop,"
and photographed him bleeding as proof of completion.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Brother Bagour had his own side gigs too. After a bitter falling out with a former business partner, he paid to have the man's sister punished, with a crew torching her car. The fire ended up burning her whole house down.
Oh,
The
my
lodge
God.
billed the arson as 10,000 euros of economic intelligence. So they,
Oh my God.
yes, yeah,
They're running everything through the actual organization.
yes.
That's incredible.
To handle this increasingly rough stuff, the network needed a reliable bludgeon, and they found him in a man named Sébastien Leroy. Unlike the three brothers, he was never a Mason. They purposefully kept the lowly and unclean muscle out of the brotherhood. Leroy had worked as a private bodyguard since 2011, and by his own lawyer's description, was obsessed with the world of secret agents, as well as the Matrix and martial arts.
Oh, this is such a type of guy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe it.
He met Beaulieu near a military academy in central Paris, and from that day forward, he believed completely that Beaulieu was still an active intelligence officer, a man who could bring him into the secret world of statecraft. Remember the racing champion from the top of the episode, the remains the mushroom hunter stumbled onto? His name was Laurent Pasquali, a French GT champion who had won national titles and even run the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He was known as the life of the party and lived ridiculously beyond his means. By the end, he owed about 440,000 euros to a string of creditors, with the press nicknaming him the Rocancourt of the car world, so after a famous French con man.
Awesome.
And yeah, here he is.
Dude, this guy just wanted to drive.
Big forehead, likes to party, likes to drive. Let's go.
He just wanted to fucking race, and he was willing to do. He knew that he was going to die doing this, so he didn't care how he got there.
And are these the type of cars they race? This just looks like a little Civic hatchback.
Little hatchback. But oh boy, they've got some zip if you got the right engine in them.
All right.
It's a rally car.
Yeah.
Among the people he owed were Alain and Nancy Marek. Alain is a biologist who built the first IVF clinic in his corner of France, making him a multi-millionaire. Nancy's an engineer, and the two of them were motorsport enthusiasts. Back in 2011, the year Pasquale took a French GT title, they'd lent him somewhere between 100,000 and 200,000 euros. He never paid it back, and he kept dodging them along with everyone else.
Well, hell yeah, this guy can drive. You know, anytime you approach him, he's hopping in the car, he's drifting, he's driving in the wrong way of. It's like me trying to get away from the cops in GTA.
Exactly like that. The fact they lent him this money in the first place was odd. But it was revealed that Nancy had become romantically obsessed with Pasquale, and Alain soon got pathologically jealous of him. So in 2016, the Mareks brought their Pasquale problem to Vaglio, who courted them in the most ostentatious way imaginable. He ran a Top Gun event at a French airbase, complete with the French equivalent of the Blue Angels, and put the Mareks up in a fighter jet. They were sold and paid Vaglio a lump sum to, in their words, scare Pasquale into paying.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. They put him into a fighter jet and sent him up into the sky, and they were like, we're going to do a couple loop-de-loops.
Pretty much. But first, the Masonic Mafia had to find him. So they bribed an officer in France's FBI to illegally pull Pasquale's home address out of the police's main records database and classified intelligence files. The bribe was surprisingly low, only 200 to 300 euros split between two cops. So they're each getting like $150.
Oh my God. They're basically getting like a collector's edition of Elden Ring.
This to me is also like what separates France from America. I feel like in America they wouldn't do this for less than like 10 grand, you know?
Yeah.
Jake just compared it to the collector's edition of Elden Ring, which is now how he measures all financial endeavors. That's the unit. That's the financial unit for him now.
Yeah, I mean, look, some things cost a standard release, some things cost the gold edition, and some things cost the ultimate edition. You know, it's this darn economy.
I know. In this economy, you don't even get like a little plastic figurine or something.
Yeah, in this economy, you don't even get a little booklet that comes with the
no map for your wall.
Oh.
Yeah, no map for your wall, sir. You will remain lost.
The Masonic trio then fed their muscle Sébastien Leroy a cover story that Pasquale was part of a Corsican nationalist network and needed to be put down by the state. Address in hand, the operation commenced. On the night of November 28, 2018, Pasquale left his mother's apartment, where he lived while in hiding, in the Paris suburb of Levallois, and walked down into the building's underground parking garage. There, a struggle ensued, and he was shot once through the heart, likely by Leroy. Leroy then loaded the body into a van, rented through a shell company, and drove 520 kilometers south overnight to that remote forest from the cold open. He partially burned the body and then buried it only 40 centimeters, so just 1 foot into the earth.
Not a professional.
No.
Like, this is like, I mean, it's like what you didn't bring like a good enough shovel.
Yeah.
He's like, he didn't have any clear plan of how to actually dispose and hide the body.
Just burn him a little bit and then barely bury him.
This is how you underestimate the actual guy who has to go do the triggering.
Right.
It's like you can't have him be a total fucking moron.
Right. Mm-hmm. After the killing, Vaglio met Beaulieu at a Paris intersection to tell him the mission was accomplished. With a slight smile, Beaulieu said,
By the way, they went a little too far. They killed him.
Beaulieu showed him a photo on a USB stick, a body in the forest, shot with a flash, curled in a fetal position with a black bag over his head. Beside it, a few lines of text.
He gets out of the elevator. He's on the phone. Boom, boom. It's over. Mission accomplished.
Why are you making a record of your crime?
Boom, boom.
A photographic record.
He's having so much fun too. He's so proud of himself.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. I murdered him. It was me who did it at this time and place. Hey, Tone.
Pasquale's mother reported him missing soon after, but the case went cold until that call a year later by the mushroom hunter who'd found the skull. The body was identified in July, but with no known killer, the case went cold all over again. By the end of 2019, the lodge had transformed into a violence-for-hire business, a service that a frustrated employer could order off a menu. One known instance of this started at a family-run plastics factory called Apnil, in an area of France known as Plastics Valley, which I can smell.
Yeah.
The plant was owned by Muriel Brun-Mallet and her husband, a luxury car collector. You see, they had an employee problem, a thorn in their side of pure capitalist excellence. He was a mechanic named Hassan Touzani, a delegate for one of France's big labor unions.
Oh yeah, these guys killing another Arab.
Yeah.
That's gonna definitely be right up their alley.
He was also a Yellow Vest protester and, as of December 2019, a newly elected member of the company's Works Council. That election seemed to have been the last straw. Vaglio paid the plant a visit. The Brun-Malets told him,
"We've got a guy who won't stop screwing with us, and we can't fire him. Sometimes I'd really like to smash his face in."
a contract on Touzani's life, around 75,000 euros, went to Vaglio and our Masonic brothers. He only found out there'd been a price on his head when the police told him a year later. He said to reporters,
I lost sleep for months. Every time I heard a noise, I'd grab my axe.
he's been on long-term sick leave ever since.
Mission Homo.
This is so incredible.
Yeah.
I can't believe that that's not you being homophobic or something.
The job that was to bring this Masonic hit network down grew out of something comically petty, a squabble between two life coaches.
Yeah.
It brings us back to the second scene of our cold open, the father who was suspicious of that black Renault Clio. The woman at the center of it is Marie-Aline Denis. She spent 15 years in the finance world, then built her own coaching school in a Paris suburb. Here's her headshot.
Just, guess a nice-looking middle-aged woman.
Yeah, she's got, beautiful gray hair, nice smile.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to poke fun of here, just a regular lady.
Time to kill her.
In 2019, she founded a professional union for coaches and made herself its first president. Like any good European bureaucrat, she wanted the business to be regulated, with real diplomas, standards, and accreditation. This put her squarely in the path of Jean-Luc Bagour, the gun-collecting coaching school boss from our trio. He saw her reforms as a threat to price him out of his own coaching racket. He called her and said,
I've heard you're engaging in unfair competition. I'm telling you this, it's not a big deal. I get along well with everyone, except those I'm in litigation with.
Bagour's first move was a beating. He recruited Leroy to do it, in what he dubbed
Operation Rough Up the Old Lady. Come on. This is the point of the code names for these operations is to hide your intent.
Yes, yes. And of course, it's all like documented in like text messages. In October of that year, just as Denis was stepping out of her home, two men came up behind her and beat her to the ground. As she screamed, they said,
If you scream again, we'll kill you. If you call the cops, we'll be back.
They ran off with her laptop and her purse. Denis filed away as a random mugging, when it was instead a warning. Her unionization plans went on, and the order changed from a scare to a kill. In June 2020, Bagour called a lunar meeting, a phrase lifted from the Masonic ritual calendar. From there, the job ran the chain. Bagour handed it to Vaglio, and Vaglio handed it to Beaulieu to organize the hit for around 70,000 euros, with a receipt for value-added tax to be reclaimed.
There
my
we
God.
go.
Wow.
Now we're doing
Wow.
small-town French business.
Yep, Leroy was pulled back in and started to search for fresh muscle. This time, the Masonic brothers told him that Denis was a Mossad agent and a grave threat to national security. The muscle came from a real French spy base, and the man who supplied it was named Yannick Pham, a domestic intelligence officer moonlighting as a document forger for the Foreign Service. He called himself
The greatest forger in the history of the police.
And will one of you describe Yannick Pham in his apartment?
He's just a younger guy who wants to show off his arm muscles, balding. He's doing a handstand in one of the pictures. He's got incredibly tasteless, like zebra-patterned furniture with zebras then also on the wall. It's just insane.
I had like a real piece of shit Israeli boss once, and I worked in like marketing, and this guy looks exactly like him and has the energy to, like he would do handstands like this in the office just to like show off that he could do it.
The press would later dub him the MacGyver of the Secret Services, but his elite action group that he sold to clients was actually an unhoused geriatric man, a slum superintendent, and an IT guy. Pham taught a class on spotting fake papers at the Foreign Service's Special Operations Training Base, and it was there that he met the two soldiers he felt were perfect fodder for the hit. They were Pierre Bourdin and Carl Hainaut, both corporals working as gate guards at the base, and they were, to put it kindly, not the elite. Bourdin liked to tell his comrades that he'd sold a 11-kilogram gemstone to the emirs at the Carlton, robbed a cocaine convoy on the highway, and ran a pedophile hunting vigilante group over Telegram. Bourdin's own commanding officer had written him up as
Not very bright, pretentious, and a pathological liar.
And the base's operations director told police.
The idea eventually was actually to get rid of him.
So here's Bourdin below.
Brad, he looks like he could be your cousin or brother, maybe.
What the fuck, Jake? He doesn't look anything
He looks like a
me.
soccer player.
What the fuck, Jake?
He doesn't look anything like me. Come on.
I think
That's
just
insane.
white guy with brown hair.
All right.
Wow.
Guilty.
What is going on?
And Noah was the competent half. Well regarded, marked for promotion, and convinced that the secrecy of the job proved it was real. He called himself part of the Bataclan generation, having enlisted right after the 2015 terror attacks in Paris. So it should be clear that those two men waiting in the black Clio, with their hoods up and gloves on in a heat wave, were Bourdin and Hainaut. And the woman they were awaiting to kill was Marie-Hélène Denis. The only reason she's alive today is because she happened to be running late that morning. They expected her at 7:45, but she didn't step outside until 7:30. By then, the plainclothes cops were already tapping on their window. When the pair were hauled in, they insisted they were on official business, with their code names being Dagomar and Adelaide. They said they were running a mission homo, intelligence slang with homo being short for homicide, the in-house term for a state-sanctioned killing. So there you go, Julian.
Uh-huh.
I have to say, not quite as cool as state station killing slang of wet work. I always like that one.
Yeah.
That's cool. Very sinister.
Oh, that's cool, Travis. You want to do some wet work? Well, sorry, you're going on a mission homo.
It's crazy to think that when the mission doesn't go as planned, that they come back to the office and they're like, no homo.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
That is, wow.
Jake had that queued up.
Mm-hmm.
So this was an act former President François Hollande openly admitted to ordering, which is why the lie worked. In fact, the invented story seemed so plausible that police took apart Denis' apartment, her car, and her scooter, hunting for sensitive documents that they were never going to find. The unraveling happened quickly. The two soldiers immediately talked, and the chain unspooled upwards. Leroy to Beaulieu, to Vaglio, to Bagur, and into the lodge itself. Leroy broke down quickly too, estimating there were between 10 to 20 assassinations in total, including the death of a Chinese ambassador in Israel.
What?
Fucking
God,
insane,
what the
yeah.
Fuck?
Beaulieu had been the only careful one, the closest to a real professional in the group. He never spoke on his phone, only met out in the open, and set his passcode to 007. That was
Oh
his
my
phone
God.
unlock code, yeah.
Oh, Christ,
When he-
these idiots.
When he finally confessed, investigators pressed him on how many people the network had killed. His answer was that the dead could be counted on the fingers of one hand, as opposed to 10 to 20.
Mm.
He's like, we only killed 2 people instead of 25.
It was during this questioning that the Pasquale killing was definitively tied to the Masonic network. And it was now, with police closing in, that Vaglio quietly called off the still pending contract on Tuzani, the union mechanic at the plastics factory. So that guy just narrowly missed getting murdered.
Oh
Wow,
my
that's
God.
crazy.
The dam broke publicly on February 3rd, 2020, when Le Parisien put this on the front page.
Victim of the Freemason killers.
The next day, the head of the GLAMF Obedience dissolved the Athanor Lodge and put out a stern statement, insisting the order demanded absolute respect for every law of the Republic.
It was cold. It was cold-blooded.
Starting last March, after almost 6 years, the whole affair landed in a courtroom. Not just any courtroom, the Special Assize Court in Paris, what France reserves for terrorism and organized crime. There's no jury, only a panel of hardened professional magistrates. The file had been codenamed Legends, after the spycraft term for a fake identity, and the docket had swollen to 22 defendants, charged with 1 definitive murder, 2 attempted assassinations, a string of beatings, and a criminal conspiracy that ran for 8 years. 13 were facing life in prison.
Damn, this is crazy. Very similar to the GS9 charges that Rowdy Rebel and Bobby Schmurda were slapped with.
The defendants were a strange cross-section of French life. 4 military men, 3 men from the police and intelligence services, a half-dozen business executives, a private security agent, a fertility doctor, an engineer, a gunsmith, an economist, an apartment caretaker, and a life coach.
Nice.
Most had never been in trouble with the law before or had never been caught for it. The woman running the show was Judge Caroline Viguier, and the defendants were all the worse for it. This is the same magistrate who, in 2021, handed former President Nicolas Sarkozy the maximum sentence for illegally financing his campaign. She weaponizes her patients, wearing the defendants down with quiet, relentless questioning, circling back again and again with lines like,
The court would like to be sure it understands this.
and
This point is important. I'll come back to it.
Over and over until each successive accused was drained of all their defenses. The trial opened with the confessions. First came Muriel Brunmellet, the plastics factory boss who ordered the hit on her own unionized mechanic. Her story was that she'd been burned out by the race for growth and the endless demands of her clients, and she'd fallen into a spiral. She said she was crushed by remorse and shame. Muriel was the only one of the 22 sitting in that courtroom as a free person. She's since sold off half her stake in the company for around 3.5 million euros and has opened a bakery and a tea room in Lyon. That's what she gets for ordering the hit on someone. Crazy.
She's like, I apologize. I've chosen to live the quiet life running my shop.
Then came Vaglio, the protege who'd fallen in love with the spy world because of Beaulieu. He confessed.
Beaulieu was like a mentor to me. Because of him, I became a criminal.
He said he'd learned to use the flaws in people to tighten the noose around him. He continued the self-awareness with,
I'd do anything. I'd accept anything. It's unforgivable and unspeakable. I was a fool.
Pressed on whether he'd manipulated those beneath him, he lost it.
Everything is immoral. You want me to tell you I'm a bastard? I didn't manipulate anyone.
Next was Bourdin, the gate guard who thought he was a secret agent, the one whose superiors called him not very bright, pretentious, and a pathological liar. He told the court that getting into the Foreign Service had been the holy grail of his life, but in reality, all he did was watch security camera feeds all day because he failed the officer exam. He wanted more than that. Asked point blank whether he lied, he said,
Of course, like everyone, but you can lie without being a liar.
Damn. Smart.
Though he pleaded not guilty for planning to assassinate Denis, a former cellmate undercut him saying he'd bragged about being a hitman. His triggerman, Eno, the competent half of the pair, had a more sophisticated defense. He argued that inside a real intelligence service, nobody sees the whole picture. It's all compartmentalization. So he'd had every reason to believe the homicide operation was authorized. All these intelligence officers leaned on the principle of acting on the orders of a legitimate authority. The idea in French law that obeying a lawful command from a superior can wipe out any criminal responsibility. And so for a week, the spy agency itself went on trial, which is unprecedented. 15 serving and former officers of the Foreign Intelligence Service, so their CIA, filed through the witness box, all with their likeness and voice anonymized. And this is an artistic rendering of how it looked.
So everyone's just like black smudges and ghost-like apparitions.
Yeah, it looks pretty eerie.
Mm-hmm.
They were all a unified wall, refusing to hand the court a single employment contract or operational document for any of the accused agents. They said they also bore no institutional responsibility whatsoever, and that off-the-books killings simply do not exist. The most senior man to be questioned was Bernard Emier, who had run the entire Foreign Intelligence Service until the year before. He testified saying,
Only the Pope is infallible.
Makes you
of
think.
course, yeah.
Nice.
And of course they would say that there's no state-sanctioned killings,
Yeah.
where really, like, the guys who had direct experience with it knew very well this is a thing and they can lie and pretend it's that.
So he insisted he'd learned of the whole affair at the same moment of the public and rejected the possibility of an unsanctioned hit on French soil. It just didn't happen.
Sure.
Until a former domestic intelligence agent took to the stand and repeatedly stated that yes, the Foreign Service could and does run lethal operations on home soil, contradicting the brass so directly that the prosecutor had to step in and ask him to clarify what he was saying multiple times.
Could you please clarify that you want to be killed later?
In May, the victim took to the stand and brought some humanity back into the whole ghoulish affair. Marie-Hélène Denis laid out 2 years of wreckage, a racing heart, fainting spells, ruined sleep, a fear of leaving her home. She scoffed at the cover story that had nearly gotten her killed, that she was a Mossad agent. She recalled how investigators had grilled her for hours about supposed Israeli intelligence ties, when she'd never set foot in Israel in her entire life. When the dollar amount put on her head was revealed, she said,
I learned that my life was worth only 70,000 euros, along with an invoice to claim back the sales tax. A life clearly isn't worth much.
She told the court she'd since been diagnosed with cancer, sold her coaching company, and watched her unionization efforts slowly disappear. She later described it in an interview as,
A tsunami, an atomic bomb that went off in my life. I was in the middle of my professional rise, and I truly felt my career just stop dead. It took me months and years to recover from it, if you include the cancer. And honestly, I'm still not fully recovered from it.
She went on to directly challenge the accused men.
I think that for the past 5 years, if I'm standing here today, still working and living an almost normal life, it's because I've shown courage. And I'm expecting this courage from the other side too. Not, No, it wasn't me. It was the other guy. It's not my fault. I was manipulated. I want people to courageously acknowledge the actions they've committed.
And of course, they did not. The real spy, Beaulieu, with the 007 phone lock code, went before Judge Viguier soon after on May 11th. She pressed him on his responsibility for the men he'd handled and unleashed. He answered coldly.
Manipulation is freely consented submission.
Isn't that so fucked
My
up?
God.
Yeah. But the careful old spy was not the figure he'd once been. He attempted suicide in detention and came back to the courtroom in a wheelchair with apparent cognitive issues. When Bagour took to the stand, he described deciding on that 70,000 euro number for Denis' death. Viguier interrupted him.
Is that the price of a human life?
Bagour replied.
It's cold. It's cold-blooded. It's what I agreed to pay.
He pleaded that he'd been under the influence of his lodge brother, Beaulieu. All of the defenses followed that same pattern, and the outlet Mediapart laid it out.
All guilty. No one responsible. Bagour blames Vaglio. Vaglio blames Bagour and Beaulieu. Beaulieu blames Vaglio and Leroy. Leroy blames everyone. And Fam the forger insists he knew nothing.
That left only the lodge to answer for itself. Alain Juillet, that spy-turned-founder of the Parent Obedience who now works with RT, chose to concede.
When a lodge or a group of lodges drifts, it means the rules of the obedience and the controls put in place to prevent it didn't work. A lodge is a closed environment in which the brothers are supposed to maintain order and harmony. There still has to be external control to verify that, because this form of independence can only function within interdependence.
But Marie-Hélène Denis will have the last word in this chapter. In a TV interview, after talking about the panic button installed by her bed, how suspicious she's become of anyone approaching her in the street, and her general exhaustion and cognitive decline, there's a glimmer of hope.
I've never gotten over my PTSD, and now it's obviously flaring up for months as the trial nears. It's very difficult, 6 years later, to face all this again, to relive the same ordeal twice. But I'm not that scared. I figure if they want to find me, they'll find me. Instead, every single day that passes, I tell myself it's an extra gift, because none of this should have ever happened. And when it's a quiet day, I tell myself it's a beautiful day.
The verdict for all accused is expected on July 17th, 2026, so just about a month from now.
The all-seeing eye.
I want to end this episode out with what we do best here at QAA, the conspiracies. Charlie Hebdo's own headline about the affair read,
The Masonic plot handed to the far right on a plate.
like the Epstein files, the case is too perfect for the conspiracy-minded, and understandably so. For once, every ingredient is genuinely there in one package. A real Masonic lodge, real ex-spies, real false flag Israeli cover story, and real contract killings. Most of the theories are empty calories, like commentary by Alexander Dugin and Alain Soral about Luciferian Freemasonry, Masonic ritual child abuse, and that Freemasonry secretly runs the French state. Some anti-Zionist channels recycled the killer's own cover story as if Denis really had been a Mossad agent, while pro-Israel channels flipped it the other way. But one piece of it is a genuine, unresolved conspiratorial curiosity. When police searched the wannabe James Bond Beaulieu's home in February 2021, they found a stash of ultra-rare 7.65mm Luger ammunition. These were the exact, unusual cartridges used in one of the most infamous unsolved massacres in French modern history, the Chevaline killings. For those that are unfamiliar, it went down in September 2012 in the French Alps. A gunman ambushed a British-Iraqi engineer named Saad al-Hili, his wife and his mother-in-law in their car, and also shot dead a French cyclist who happened to pedal past in the most inopportune moment. Al-Hili's 2 young daughters somehow survived. One was pistol-whipped and left for dead. The other hid for 8 hours under her mother's body in the backseat of the car. 25 rounds in total were fired. The murder weapon was a collector's item Swiss pistol made back in the 1930s, with only around 940 ever made, so 100-year-old pistol. It has never been found, and the case has never been solved, and the ammunition exactly matched what was in Beaulieu's home. So
Oh, wow.
they've reopened the case basically to try and see if he's
No
linked to it.
way.
Yeah.
So, once again, Beaulieu killing an Arab.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all they know how to do, these fucking French Secret Service guys.
So to conclude, as bonkers and implausible as this whole affair is, I can't say any of it is surprising. Secret societies have always attracted a certain type of guy, already in positions of power and influence, and insulated them even further. So I think, just a matter of time and the right sort of dark triad personalities before they end up murdering an obstacle that gets in their way.
Mm-hmm.
And this has all happened before, at a scale that makes Athanor feel embarrassingly Little League. If you want, just look up Propaganda Due or the P2 story, which I'm sure like a lot of listeners are familiar with, which is just far too deep to tack on to this already gargantuan app. Have you guys done an episode on P2?
No.
Or like, oh wow, it's a deep one. But Travis, do you want to tease what's coming in part 2 next week?
Yeah. You might, some listeners might remember that in September of last year, I took a trip to New York State in order to do some research for an idea of for a book that's been rattling around in my head for a while. And part of this trip involved me trying to dig into the story of the Morgan affair, the story of a man named William Morgan who was kidnapped and whisked away by Freemasons in that area because they knew he was writing a book that threatened to expose their secrets of particularly their higher degrees. And it's so interesting. I've always wondered why it's not a better known story. It's like I discovered it's not even that well known, even in Batavia, which is the sort of the central place where these events happened. I think it's because it is bizarre and convoluted, and at the time it was the subject of like this massive propaganda war. Like people started up specialty newspapers specifically to argue against the sort of narratives about Morgan's kidnapping and to sort of defend the idea that Morgan's kidnapping did end in a murder. And I went to the place where Morgan was arrested in Batavia. I went to the final known place where he was imprisoned. And I think I have some like a new perspective and new kind of like new information about this, despite the fact that it's been researched and documented and written about for 200 years. And I think it is a bizarre story, and I really hope that this will do something to make this tale of American history a little bit better understood and known.
Nice. So we get basically a sneak preview of your book project?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
I love that story. I think it's also a really good example, a very early example of American politics to sort of mixing with conspiracies and secret societies, and there's a lot of kind of foundational sort of conspiracy principles that sort of pop up during that period of history. So it's I'm excited to dive deeper into that.
Yeah, and I'll be keeping up to date on this Athanor affair too over the next month. If any like bombshells get dropped, I'll update everyone.
We love an ongoing like QAA episode. Usually our shit is so cold and ancient. It's just dry. It's so cold. It's been left out on the counter. But this is hot. This is a meal.
It's also just it's so apparent that Americans do not care about anything that is happening outside of America, especially in another language. Like there's almost zero coverage of this in American media, which is like sort of a plus for doing an episode on it, but also just disappointing.
Yeah, it's so true. What a good story.
Yeah. So thanks everyone.
Great stuff, Brad, as always.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the QAA podcast. You can go to patreon.com/QAA and subscribe for $5 a month to get the whole second premium episode we do for every regular one, plus access to our entire archive of premium episodes.
Brad, where can people find more of your work if they're looking for it?
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram. I'm just Brad WTF, and on X, which I'm using less and less and less, I'm Love and Saucers. And our documentary, Gimme Truth, is going to have its U.S. premiere in a few months.
Woo!
Yeah, likely in Austin, Texas. So I know we have some fans out here, so I'll give some more info as it comes.
I would love to come to that. That sounds like a good reason to come to Austin again.
Yeah.
And Julian, you and Gabrus have been working like madmen. I saw you guys just dropped another episode of SuperStructure. Tell everybody a little bit about that.
That's right. We've got 10 episodes up now of my solo project with John Gabrus, which is an ongoing podcast. Some people thought it might be a mini-series and then realized, wait a second, this thing seems like it's going to keep on going, and it sure will. So go and check us out at superstructurepodcast.com. Our latest 2 episodes are on the Weather Underground, and the second one is on the Black Liberation Army and the Republic of New Africa. So that's a 2-parter.
Nice.
Really interesting stuff, and a time where guerrilla warfare was a domestic issue here in the United States, which seems far-fetched for us, born in the 80s and beyond. But anyways, you can go check that out at superstructurepodcast.com, like I said, and then if you want to follow us on Instagram, Superstructure Podcast, and then on Blue Sky, Superstructure Pod. So go and check it out, folks.
Follow them, listen. If you're on Instagram, if you're on these social media apps and you're following SuperStructure, go over and also follow cursedmedia.net. We've got a little Instagram. We got a little Instagram account going. We're trying to be more a little bit more That's what we're doing.
They're trying to be We're trying
to be and less more
But yeah, that's also the website, cursedmedia.net, where you can get access to all of our miniseries. That's an ongoing miniseries network that we run, and lots of good shows are out on that. And there's a new one coming in not so long that's going to be exciting to reveal.
Yes.
Nice.
The QAA, the QAA people, we are not slowing down. We like making content for you. That's the number 4. That's the letter U, and it's not gonna fucking stop, folks. And so I appreciate you all bearing with us during these troubling times. And
What the hell?
and
What
until
is he on about? Guy in his early 40s. I am not slowing down.
Yeah, and until who am I talking to here? The audience or myself? Until next week, dear listener, may the deep dish bless you and keep you.
We have auto-queued content based on your preferences.
22 people have gone on trial in France on charges of murder. And of course, again, you know that not all 22 people are going to be found guilty. Somebody might be found guilty, but I doubt it's going to be one of the Freemasons. It'll probably end up being the doctor or one of the executives. And we certainly know it won't be the intel agents, and it certainly won't be the police. But it'll likely be the corporate goons, and of course they probably won't end up in jail anyway because they're likely Freemasons as well. And the judge, again, is 100% going to be a Freemason because that's how the court system works. And this even goes back to the teachings, again, of the Synagogue of Satan, how they will control the courts. They will control, this is in the Talmud, the controlling of the court systems, how no goyim will ever win. That's us against these specific people. And again, you might say, well, Freemasons aren't members of the Synagogue of Satan. Well, they teach and study the Kabbalah. Okay, these are all members of the same club. Okay, these are all people who worship Lucifer.